Welcome back to Colorado Sports Connection. We're talking with Marcia Neville. Marcia, now we talked about how your career ended.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about how it started. I believe you came to Colorado in 1983.
Now,
1983.
if it was 1983 and you do the math, I had to have been about 11 when I got here, right?
I was thinking 11 or 12.
I kind of tell people that I grew up on Denver television, but I won't admit that I grew old on Denver television. Summer of 1983. Does anybody remember what happened in Denver, momentous, in 1983?
Well, one, I graduated from high school.
You graduated from high school. Marcia came to Denver.
And Marcia came to Denver, and I remember a name by the name of John Elway coming to town.
Yeah, John Elway's rookie summer. So let's say that CBS 4, at the time NBC 4, hiring a young female to be a television sports broadcaster didn't get a whole lot of play because that kid named Elway was in his first rookie camp up in Greeley.
But before you cut yourself short, we look back to 1983. Colorado ended up getting 2 Hall of Famers. Go.
Oh, now aren't you something? Yes, the Colorado coaches of girls sports put me in their Hall of Fame this year, and I couldn't have been more flattered or it really was over the top to have a group of women who had meant so much to girls sports and getting traction for female athletes to consider me worthy to put into that group with a Seal Berry, like a Ruby Miller who founded the organization in the first place. Really was humbling. It was fabulous. But go back to 1983 and you think how many women were doing sports on television at the time nationwide.
I only remember like Phyllis George.
Right,
from CBS Sports.
Right, and that was in the mid-'70s. And when you talk about role models and putting images on television of positive stories about teenage athletes or stories about women competing, those images that come into your home really make a difference. And I'm the prime example. When I was a little girl, I sat on the couch with my mom watching the NFL. And when Phyllis George came on TV and started talking, a woman talking about football, it got my wheels turning. It's like, well, if she can do that, I'm never going to be Miss America, but I know sports, I love football, maybe I can do that too. So when you go back to 1983, and I really haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm thinking there were maybe fewer than 36 women in television broadcast sports at the time. I got my first job in 1980. It just didn't happen. So when Channel 4 took the risk of hiring a woman to talk about sports in 1983, it really was, trailblazing. But when you're in the middle of it, you don't know that. You don't know that you're doing something new or unusual or something you're not supposed to do.
I mean, now when you get this tag and people come up to you and say, Colorado's first female sportscaster, at the time, like you said, it didn't sink in. But now that you look back, I mean, that is an extraordinary accomplishment.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Bean Project today. Somebody took a chance on me. And when you're prepared maybe to do the job and run with it, then the risk they take pays off for them. My whole idea when I began my career was I wanted to get to a major league sports town. I wanted to report on the NBA and the NFL and all the rest of it, just like everybody else. And so the opportunity to come to Denver, which was the town I had always wanted to come to as an East Coast skier, hello, you definitely want to ski out west in the Rockies. So coming to Denver made a whole lot of sense to me. What I didn't expect and what I couldn't predict was that being slotted into the high school spot was going to work so well for me. Once I got connected to the high school kids, I didn't want to leave that beat. At that point, yeah, somebody else can cover the Broncos, someone else can be out there with the Nuggets and all those things. I loved the true passion, the first time enthusiasm that you felt by covering high school sports. And I loved the idea that you were doing something positive for young people. You were giving them a positive image. People run around town and you're scared of teenagers. You see them in the mall and ooh, it's so scary. But, again, back to positive images. We were putting great stories about great kids out there so people would know maybe we don't have to be quite so scared about our future and leaving it to the young people because they're doing amazing, wonderful, powerful things.
Well, you know, I enjoyed all the stories you did, and I want to hear a lot more. And you were mentioning the high school athletes. So when we come back, I'd like for you to share some of those stories with us on the Colorado athletes you covered during your 26 years right here in Colorado. When we come back, we'll talk with, once again, the lovely and talented Marcia Neville right here on Colorado Sports Connection.